When I was out for my morning jog the other day, I was about 2 blocks into my jog, and my lungs were hurting. Everything was hurting. And I thought, why is this not getting any easier? I mean, I have been running every morning for 4 days. Not every morning. I mean, 4 days over like the last 2 weeks or so, sporadically. But each morning that I would go out, I do about 5 kilometers. In fact, I make sure the trail is 3.1 something miles. It's 5 kilometers. So I have now 15 kilometers under my belt. So why, oh why, do I not feel like an Olympic marathon runner? Well, it turns out, surprisingly, that the missing element in going for our fitness goals is the same element that's missing in most social media marketing campaigns: consistency. We know you can't make up for a month of not working out by going to the gym for 5 hours, right? You're not going to get a month's worth of results by working out for 5 hours if you could even keep up intensity for 5 hours. It's better to work out 10 minutes a day, right? And it's easier to work out 10 minutes a day than for 5 hours. We know that, but yet with social media, I always hear things like, I tweeted a lot, I'm not getting results. Well, you tweeted a lot when? Last week. I went on Twitter for a few days and I tweeted a lot and I'm not seeing anything. Or I changed my profile on LinkedIn like I was told, but I'm still unemployed. You know, what's the deal here? Obviously the deal is you need to be consistent. So I want to talk about consistency in social media in a few different areas. And then I want to go over questions too, because I got a whole bunch of questions in, and feel free to yell out comments, questions, so we can be casual, and I want to work on some stuff. So really my goal is I want you to go home having learned something that's maybe challenging you with social media. Everyone has different issues. A lot of them are very similar though. So please let me know what your challenges are and we'll try to workshop it. I don't know everything, as much as Elise thinks I do. But what's great is I have experience by seeing a lot of social media campaigns and programs, so I have ideas from the experience that I've seen, but a lot of what I get is from workshopping and brainstorming with other people. So please, you know a lot, so ideas, when we yell them out together and help each other, we're going to come up with even more solutions for each other. So I want to go over a few different areas where you want to be consistent, because yes, spending 10 minutes a day is better than spending 5 hours one day on Facebook or Twitter or Google+. But it's not just the time. There's a lot of areas where consistency really gives you big results. So we're going to go over these different areas, and then with each of these areas, I want to give you at least one action step or takeaway, because I want you to go back to your office or your home and be able to actually apply this and say, oh, look what I did something different. Now, these are very simple action steps for the most part, really simple, really little tweaks that you can do. And I know it's fun to go to a talk or read an article about the next big thing, a bright, shiny, exciting technique that you can apply to your social media account, and it's so huge, it's gonna make such a big difference, your business is gonna change overnight. But if you compare two different accounts, there's a person here who's working the basics every day, and there's someone here who's looking for the next big thing, and oh, this is so exciting, I just learned about this new technique, and you try it, and then a new technique comes out next week, of course, so you go and you try that technique. The comparison, the person over here working the basics every day, maybe it's a little boring, but they're working the basics every day, they are getting the results. The results are not boring. It's common sense and it's simple, but we're all in the business world, in social media especially, we're looking for the new thing. What's the newest, biggest thing to try out? Some of these ideas I'm going to talk about you may not have heard of, and they may sound new and exciting to you. They work, and they're simple. So that's just what I want to let you know. Do them. So, and then, like I said, if anything comes up, bring it up, yell it out, it's fine. Other countries and states as well. So let's talk about frequency to start. consistency in frequency. It's kind of like going to the gym for 10 minutes a day, working out 10 minutes a day. You want to spend time consistently working your social media. So how often do you post? Let's talk about your broadcasts. You write posts and you put them out on the social media networks of your choice. Is it once a day? Is it 3 times a week? Is it 12 times a day? The frequency is not as important as the consistency of the frequency. Yes, more frequent will, in general, depending on the network, get you faster results because people get to know you faster. And people will forget you if you don't post. If you're posting once a week, it's almost like you're not there. So you do want to be more frequent, but the consistency is more important. I used to teach about email newsletters, and people used to say, what's the best frequency? Do I send it bi-weekly? Do I send it weekly? Do I send it monthly? And we studied it. The answer is that is not as important as the consistency. If you have a monthly newsletter, people come to expect it every month. If you have a weekly newsletter, people expect it every Thursday. If you have a weekly newsletter and you forget for a few weeks, people may not realize they expected it and didn't get it because it's not their priority, but when they get it, they go, I haven't seen that in a while. It feels weird. It's maybe unconscious, but you lose a little faith. And consistency, and I'll bring this up a few times, consistency builds trust and faith. And when you break that faith, it's hard to build it back. So frequency, so decide for yourself, how often are you going to be broadcasting your message? If you can do 1 to 3 times a day on certain networks, great. So let me talk about an action step to make this a little easier, because sometimes this is the stressful part. How am I going to remember to post every day? How am I going to fit that into my schedule? Because it's not just taking a few seconds to post, it's thinking about what you want to post. And sometimes that, looking at a blank screen, it can take you 20 minutes to just sit there and stress out, and then you don't do it. And you're not going to do it the next day because it's too stressful. So when you're broadcasting, this is one of the parts of social media where it is perfectly acceptable to pre-schedule. There are parts that you don't want to automate and schedule, but broadcasting, it's totally fine to pre-schedule. So one of my favorite tools is Hootsuite. Does anyone here have Hootsuite? Hootsuite is a great tool to put on your calendar. Let's say every Monday at 11:30, you're going to spend 20 minutes, write posts for your Facebook, Google Plus, and Twitter account, or LinkedIn, whatever accounts. We'll talk about different platforms in a bit. But whatever platforms you're going to use, write some posts, put them in and pre-schedule them for the next week. So now every day you don't have to stress out that you didn't do that. That's done. And you're consistent. You have 1 or 2 a day going out on all your networks every day. All you have to do is plan that once a week. Yes?
Sorry, is it okay if I ask you?
Yes, of course.
Is there a certain time of day or week that is better to do it than others, maybe first thing in the morning or lunchtime, or is
to pre-schedule or to post it?
To post it.
Great question. This is a question that comes up all the time, and there's a lot of research done. There's 2 answers. Number 1, it depends on your industry and when your audience is on. So unfortunately, there's no one answer for that. So if your audience is, first of all, you have to think of where they are. If you're reaching people in California, you're not going to start posting at noon. That's 9 a.m. If you think 9 a.m. is when they get up, you need to post at noon for them, right? Wait, I'm sorry. So it's the opposite. So you need to be. So if your audience is 5 hours ahead, you have to pre-schedule to post at 4 a.m. so that it goes out at their 9 a.m. So you think about timing and where they are. The studies do show that there's more engagement with the posts that are put out in the less busy social media times. Most people are posting during business hours, 9 to 5. If you post after 5 and on weekends, where we tend to think most people aren't sitting on social media, you get more response because there's less traffic. So your posts stand out after 5 p.m. and on weekends. After 11 p.m. Eastern is a very popular time. If your audience is, they say moms love going on social media after 10 or 11 p.m. It's their me time. So if that's your audience, that's a great time. But certainly it all has to do with your audience. If your audience are not moms. I mean, these are working moms and stay-at-home moms. These are moms where they put the kids to bed and now I have me time after 10 p.m. So that's a great time to get them in a conversation. They're chatting with each other. They're looking up what's going on. So two things. So evenings and weekends, and look to where your audience is and who they are. So when they'd mostly be on. They also say noontime, because people are, packing up to go to lunch and they get to check on their social media a little bit. You do a little social time. Okay, so your action step is to get something like Hootsuite. There's Sprout Social, there's TweetAdder, there's many apps out there, and there are always new ones coming out. Hootsuite is, for your own account, is free. So grab yourself a Hootsuite account and you can put all your social media platforms on there, and you can pre-schedule every week. You can pre-schedule for the month if you want to do it once a month. But of course, new things will come up all the time. So I think weekly is a nice compromise. So that's frequency, consistency with frequency. Let's talk about consistency with your branding. This is something that I always find very surprising, that people are not always consistent with their branding. There are, and you'll see this, of course, on Facebook a lot. There are people who their career, their profession is to be a success coach. They want to inspire people to live a happy life. Oh, they're a life coach. And they write happy things and they put pretty pictures with inspirational quotes. And then they have a bad day and they bitch and moan about it all over social media. I understand wanting to bitch and moan, but if you're on social media for your career, don't confuse people by not being who you say you are. You're not inspiring me by whining. There are certain ways to complain. As a success coach, you're allowed to complain. Everybody has complaints. But you complain in a way that matches your branding if that's what you want to do. You show how tough things happen, but look how I turned it around, or I looked on the bright side, or whatever it is that your branding is about. So, it takes time to build up awareness of your branding, and then it takes even longer to build trust in it. So you spend time posting in alignment, in harmony with the impression you want people to have of you. And it takes a while for people to see that and go, oh, this is who she is, this is who he is. They're always posting about this, I can now see this is their branding, this is the impression I get when I see their face. Then it takes a little longer for them to have faith and trust in it. It takes time. People want overnight results. Why am I not a size 2? I went jogging for 4 days. It takes time. The problem is when you post something that confuses your branding, that's against your branding, you have now eroded that trust that you built up if you got there, and you have to start over again. So all that time you took to build awareness and trust in your branding has now gone in the garbage, and you have to start over again. Even one post, the people who see that post, it can ruin it for you. If you do that more than once or twice or 3 times, sometimes it takes longer each time to rebuild the trust in you, and eventually you're going to lose it completely. People don't believe you anymore. It's similar to, I had once heard a story to relate this to going to a restaurant where you have something that's delicious a few times, and then you go and the next time it's not so delicious. They made it differently. And maybe you think, I'll give them another chance, and the next time it's better, and then the next time it's not good. You have no faith. There's no consistency. I'm not going back there. My favorite meal isn't going to be, I don't know if it will be delicious. So be consistent with your branding. Now, what is your branding? Your branding really is, if you're a personal, most of us have personal brands. Even if you have a business, you have a personal brand, who you are. Who do you want people to see? What impression do you want to evoke? What do you want people to feel when they see your name, when they see your face, when they see your posts? If you have a job, if you're an employee, if you're an executive, you want to have a personal branding because that helps your career. It helps you advance in your career. It may help you get another job in the future. So what is your branding? I like the easy way. Branding is so ambiguous. A lot of people have talked about it. It's not concrete. You can't say this is a brand. It is a feeling. It's an impression. how I like to describe when we have our clients, new clients come to us, we need to find out what their branding is so we can post for them in alignment with the branding all the time. So one of the ways we get it is we just ask them, here's 20 adjectives. Which ones do you, what is your branding, or how do you want people to feel when they think of you? So I want to give you some, because I think it would be a great thing to write down a few adjectives. Maybe you already know what they are. What do you want me to think? What do you want your audience to think when we see your face? Oh, I feel good, and I laugh because I know you're going to be funny every time. Or what is it? You may know the adjectives you want. I'm going to read you a bunch because it helps jumpstart your mind. Post these 3 to 5 adjectives. Post them on a Post-it note. Post that on your computer. Every time you post on social media, make sure it's giving you that feeling, or it will give other people that feeling. Soon it will become natural, and you won't have to be checking in every time. But it's a great way to think about it, because if you're always in alignment, you're building the trust, and you'll be consistent with it. So here are some adjectives. Compassionate, inspirational, supportive, and you don't have to write them all down. Write down ones that speak to you, that you want your branding to be. Creative, funny or humorous, controversial, whimsical, trendy, cheerful, optimistic, insightful, confident, entertaining, calming, authoritative, uplifting, professional, spiritual, motivational, no nonsense, informative, generous. Are there some in there? Did anyone not get any that feel good to them? Does anyone have other words that you always thought of, this is my brand, that I didn't mention? I'd love to hear some other adjectives. What was it?
Innovative?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Innovative.
Innovative?
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. That's a good one. Innovative. That's beautiful. Yes.
I had, yours were great. I added to warm
Warm.
and practical.
Practical. That's so not me, so I didn't think of it. Thank you. Great. Anyone else? Some fun words? Fun. Did I say fun? That's a good one. Funny. Okay, so your action step is to take your brand words and put them by your computer and look at them for the next week or so as you're creating any post for social media, any blog article that you put out, any of your content. You will create more trust in consistent branding if you're going to always evoke these feelings. Good? Any questions? Yes.
How many should you have? I wrote down like 10 of those words.
Great. Yes.
Maybe like conciseness might be better.
Concise is good because it's so hard to wrap your mind around so many. I like 3 to 5. So sometimes you can look at a few and combine them into one word. It's really tough for multi-passionate people to get whittle it. It's like picking a niche. Like, who do you want to work with? Oh, I like these people, but I don't want to not work with these people, and I like to do this too, and I like to, so it's difficult, I know, but you will have a much easier time if you can bring it to max 5.
Okay.
Yes.
What if you're struggling to figure out which exactly are the right fit for you? You know, so if you're starting out and you're new and you're creating this brand, like what makes the most sense for you? Do I want to be authoritative, or do I want to be funny, or do I want to have whimsy or humor, or does that not make sense?
Yes, well, the great thing, number one, is that you can mix two almost contradicting words because that makes you so uniquely you. And yes, there are always ways to combine professional and humorous, or, what are other things, like informative but whimsical. There are ways to put two words together that people might not think go together, but you do it in your unique way, and that makes you even more stand out because you're so unique. One thing that, because we all struggle when we're putting together a new brand, and I think we often struggle even when we've been doing things for years. I mean, who here who's been in business for years is totally clear and has no questions about who they are and their brand? I mean, I've been in my own business for 24 years, and I still keep going to my mastermind group. Who am I? What can you help me with? So don't let it stop you, because otherwise you will not do anything for 24 years. So what you can do is start experimenting. Put stuff out. I mean, I know I've learned types of people I like to work with by thinking I wanted to work with different other types of people. So you put stuff out there. You could be more general, and you could start whittling back. It's tough if you are putting out a business in a big way. You can't be wishy-washy. But if you're talking about your personal brand, have fun and experiment and see what you like. And as soon as you start getting clearer, then just, be confident about that clarity. Yes?
I think you actually just gave a really good piece of advice embedded in your advice, which is asking other people, right? And so ask people who've known you for 24 years and ask people who've known you for 6 months, when you talk to me, what do you get from me?
That is so great, because what's really interesting is most of the time, like I met you 3 months ago and I met her when I was a kid, a lot of times the words are similar, and so that is a beautiful thing to learn. Oh my God, that must be what people get from me, because I just met you and I've known you since I was a kid, and you both feel the same. That's so beautiful. So yes, do that. One sec. Wait.
Do you have tips, like, as you're figuring this out, how to, change and navigate without seeming wishy-washy?
Yes, let's see. And that's not, it's interesting because that's not it's not what I do, but I've done it for myself. So I'll tell you, what I do know is that if you've decided to change branding, it can happen very quickly, that people can really start trusting you in your new branding and not even remember what your old branding is pretty quickly with social media, because you can post often. You can post, if you post often and consistently, I said it takes time, but it doesn't take years. It can take a few months, and people will, if you're consistent. So if you're going back and forth, that's wishy-washy. But if you suddenly decide, you know what, I no longer want this part of me to people to see that, or I don't want to be this kind of person anymore, I don't want to work with this kind of person anymore, decide, be clear on that, and go all the way and be consistent with your new thoughts on your branding. And stick to that, and when you're consistent with it, you will see people start knowing you. I mean, I saw this with myself when I changed my Twitter name and put out a new bio. A few months later, people were coming to me, and I thought they were coming from my old business, but they were coming new. They're like, "Well, you're the expert on this." I'm like, "Oh, yes, I am." They forgot what my other business was. It happens quickly, but be consistent and be confident with it. Does that make sense? Yes.
I was just saying there's definitely a difference between your personal branding, which is where you're going now, and just your company branding. So when you started, that's where I was, and I was thinking it feels like you're
Going.
be clear about where you are in your company brand.
Yeah, yes. So your company brand, you're saying, so you can't be wishy-washy or experiment with a company brand. Yes, that's difficult. So we are more talking about your personal brand. For many of us, our personal brand really is our business. So it can lead into the confidence that you then decide to put out with your business. When there's many people in the business, it's a different story. So you have to all decide what the branding is and be consistent with that. Yes. Good. Okay, so that's consistency with your branding. Similar to that is consistency with your message. So this is where some strategy comes in. Your social media marketing is not separate from the marketing and sales in your business. It's really another arm of your marketing. Social media is obviously just one part of marketing. It's great for inbound leads. You put out your expertise and people come to you, but you do advertising. I was going to say in the phone book. That's how long ago I started my business. Does anyone here know what the phone book is? So you put out ads in newspapers, online, you billboards, whatever, that's advertising. You do other kinds of marketing. You might do speaking, you might write articles, whatever your marketing is to get your message out there. It needs to be consistent with your social media message. Your current marketing, look at all of the arms of your company and your personal brand marketing. Whatever you're doing to get yourself or your company out there. make sure the message that you're putting out there is always the same. Your message, your mission can't be different. So when I say you're experimenting on social media, you're not making a different message. You might just want to be fun one day and realize fun doesn't work for you, but you don't want to give different message. I mean, we're talking now more about the business. You want all of your marketing to be consistent. So that's where social media, sometimes people go on social media and they think, well, this is just for fun. But if you're doing it for business, people see it. They will get very confused and not trust you if your message is different. So this brings up, I think, a good point. And Michael downstairs, if you were downstairs, said you're super objective and you're objective. So I, in social media, talk about your macro objective or your macro goals and micro goals. A lot of times with businesses, our macro objective is to make more money, to sell more of a product. And so we go on social media and treat it like it's a place to sell more. And it isn't. Social media is not a direct sales platform, but it will help you sell more if you remember that your micro goals, your micro objectives, are where social media helps. So if your macro goal is to sell more of a product or sell more of your services, what are the micro goals? What is a social media campaign that sells a lot of stuff? So if I have a social media campaign that's selling, that people are coming there and the people who are noticing them are buying their stuff, what is that social media platform? What is that person who's on social media? What does it look like? Well, what does it look like? Let's see. They have the attention of their ideal target audience. Their ideal target audiences are clicking the links that they put there and going to their website. They're getting engagement and they're getting their ideal or people, influencers, to share their information with their ideal audience. That's what social media is good for. So your micro goals, if you want to sell more of your stuff, is to attract your ideal audience. It's to get more engagement and retweets and shares and likes and plus ones. It's to get more newsletter signups, if that's your funnel, to get people in your funnel, to get more opt-ins, because that will help you sell more. So think about what the supporting goals are that will lead you to your macro goal. And that's what social media is great for. So when we talk about consistency in your message, when you go out to put out an advertising ad, if you put out an ad somewhere, you know your goal is to sell more. When you go on social media, remember the micro goals, the supporting goals under that, because that's what social media will work to do. It will get you more sales if you focus on the supporting goals. So what are other goals? We're talking about selling more, but there are other goals that people go on to social media for, or other goals in your business or your personal life. Let's yell out some goals. Why are you on social media? What do you want to get out of it? Anyone? More looking for information? Okay, so, and I think, and actually social media, that's almost a micro goal, because if that's your macro goal, social media can help you get more information. How a social media account that you're running, where you're getting information, what does that look like? I mean, social media, Twitter, for example, a lot of people say it's so overwhelming. If you log on to Twitter, you're looking at many thousands of random tweets going by. That's not going to give you information. You just have to decide, what is the specific information I need? What are the keywords that will help me? If everyone who gives me this information would use this keyword. These types of people, maybe it's journalists from a certain network. You put them in a list. You put the keywords in a list. And when you log on, you're looking specifically in those columns. So now it's not overwhelming. When you log on to your account, you're looking at exactly what you want to see. So that makes it a lot easier. You're getting the information, right, that you want. What other goals? Yes?
To be perceived as an expert.
Great. To be perceived as an expert in your field. So what does that account look like? If you're perceived as an expert, if you've seen an account of someone who is perceived as an expert, what does their account look like?
They give advice, they provide links to like really good resources.
Great. So links to other resources plus your own resource. Right? And obviously other people are sharing and engaging with their stuff.
Tweeting their stuff all over the place, right?
So, okay, great. So if you're perceived as an expert, people are sharing. So you're putting out stuff that is share worthy.
Yes.
You also, when you're posting outside of social media, like in an article or on your blog, you have links so people can click and share your information. Yes,
What do you do if you're in an industry that's highly regulated?
that is
So
always
everything-
tough. Yes.
Everything you do needs to be approved, so a lot of times you're posting and you're writing things that have been
Not approved
written or approved or
and
posted over and over
overdone.
just because of the constraints of what you can and cannot say.
I always like to go around a back door or a different door with those kinds of industries. So if you can, I'm trying to think of an example. I think there's a man who is in financial services who, and I don't remember the specifics of it, but instead of posting the regulated stuff, he has a branding that's similar. So people get to know him and they see he's an expert in money and numbers, but he talks about things that are not specifically in the industry and regulated, things that he's allowed to post about. Sometimes it's jokes. His branding is that he wants to be entertaining and funny. So people look at him, but yet his bio says what he does. So people get to know him and like him, and he's become known as not an expert in the specific regulated part, but he's a money guy, a number guy, and people, when they then need his services, they think of him because he's so engaging. So if you can come up with a brand and give advice in something that isn't regulated but is similar, is there a way for you to do that?
I have to double check that because it's very, very hard to post
Okay.
anything
It-
without having it be approved. So
Yes.
It just gets watered down to something that's really not your language.
That's true. So yeah, I mean, and this would take some time because there are probably some things that you can, and I know a lot of these industries are behind, well, they're not as up to date in social media. I was saying to someone, when the next thing comes out, the next new big thing, then they'll get on board with social media, and then it'll be too late. But that's many industries are slow to adopt the new thing, and social media isn't new anymore. But yeah, I would love to talk to you and brainstorm some ideas because there are some ways, and I've seen people do it. So let's talk and figure out a way around it. Yes.
Sort of along those same lines, like if you're tweeting from your personal account, but you're also closely affiliated with a company or that brand, is it enough to have a disclaimer and say like the thoughts and messages posted on this account do not represent that of the company? Like I know I follow like a lot of magazine editors and they'll do that. I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
say I post something and in my profile, it says that I work for Next Jump, but I want to make sure people know like it's me and this is not the opinion of Next Jump.
Yeah. Is it enough? Maybe, but maybe not. I mean, it's not enough in that people are not going to see that and then decide they're going to turn off their brain. I mean, you say you work for Next Jump, so you say something, I'm going to think of Next Jump. You can't, no matter what you say, that it's not related, I associate you with there. So it's very hard today. There's no way to separate yourself from your career, and there's nothing that you can put out there that you can ever really erase. So never put anything out there that you wouldn't be proud of putting up on a giant billboard with your face and name on it. Even if it's not related to business, if it is related, it doesn't matter. If your boss saw it, if your kids saw it, if your mother saw it, always know it's not only a possibility, it's going to happen. So how you work with your company, and every company has different rules about posting. There are some companies that require you to post a certain way and don't allow you to have. Now, it's really tough because how can a company not allow you to have a personal account? But there's so much out there that makes it tough for the companies now. Your personal brand can help the company, but it can also hurt the company. So, right, so is it enough? I think it's probably good to say these are my opinions and not the company's. But don't think that you could put something out that would hurt the company and it would be okay, because it's not. Yes?
So this is kind of a separate question. We have a lot. We have 4 different offices in different cities, so we have really one account across each of the social media platforms. Do you have any recommendations on how to it's very, our things are very new to our careers right now because that's.
So you have 4 offices with one account, you're saying, online. Yeah. I think it's fun that, you can say, you're a global company and there's 4 offices, I think this is part of strategy. So you come up, if you don't have a plan, it's just going to be random. So if you strategically decide we're going to post once a day about what's going on in one of these, so there's 4 posts a day about what's going on in the different offices. That's great, and people will start to expect that and get excited to say what's going on in London, what's going on in Boston, what's going on in San Francisco. So it's kind of fun to be doing that. But you want to also be, no matter who's posting or what the strategy, have it be clear. Because there's a lot of employees in different areas, you can't have different people going on unless everyone is totally on the same page and knows what the rules are and what can be posted. But I think it would be a lot of fun to have a plan to post about the different offices. You could, I think it would water down your platform to have 4 different accounts. You're a global company. You're going to add another office, so then you have to add another one. No, keep it all global next jump. But that's one way I would say to bring the whole world into it. But and maybe it's that, every Friday say to the office, give us a few things to tweet about or post about next week. And so every Monday when you're going on to schedule for the week, you have all the offices. Okay, so we talked about frequency, we talked about branding, we talked about your messaging. Let's talk about engagement. So engagement, talking to people, having one-on-one conversations with people. This is not automated or pre-scheduled. Part of engagement can be pre-scheduled. I'll tell you a little secret about that. But how consistently are you engaging? Are you logging on whenever you remember and chatting with people? And chatting, by the way, back and forth does not lead to bigger results except to maybe build relationships one-on-one with people in a social sense. That's fine, and do that for fun. But if you're talking about strategically to build your brand and to build awareness of your company, one-on-one back and forth is not building your business. Strategically engaging will help. So you want to do this, I would say you want to strategically and consistently go on at least a few times a week, but be consistent. If you can log on for 5 to 10 minutes a day, that's terrific. And what you can do, here's your takeaway, is make a checklist of what you're going to do to engage each time you log on. And there's 3 things that are important for what constitutes engaging strategically to help grow awareness of you. Number 1 is answering questions. If people have any questions or comments to you that require a response, you want to respond. And if you're logging on for 5 to 10 minutes a day, you're doing it in a timely manner. If people ask a question and they don't hear back from you for 24 hours or more, they're annoyed. If you're doing this for customer service, that 24 hours is way too long. People get annoyed if they don't hear back from you in an hour. But if you're doing this to build your brand and it's not customer service, 24 hours is the max. You want to go on within 24 hours and answer people's questions. So first thing on your checklist is to look to see in your column, and Hootsuite is great for this, you make a column of mentions. Anyone who has put your name in there, in Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever it is, you see and you respond. So that's responding. Number 2 is thanking people, showing appreciation. If someone shares your information or even likes or +1s or whatever platform you're on, if someone takes the time to say, they're endorsing your stuff and they're saying, hey, I liked what you did. If you ignore them, they're going to stop sharing your stuff and they're going to have a slightly negative opinion of you. Whoa, this person's too big to thank me. I just shared their... that's a big deal. For me to share your post with my followers who I built up and you didn't even thank me, well, I'm not doing it again. So, but yet people who thank me, tomorrow I'm going to look for more stuff to share of theirs. So thank people. Thanks for sharing my stuff. Be kind. Be appreciative. The third thing is building relationships. And that has to do with several things where you either share other people's great information and tell them why, tell them how much you like it and why you're sharing it. You +1, you like, you favorite. and you comment and respond to people, and you follow them. So this is part of your relationship building. You follow people or connect with them, you share their stuff, you comment, and you like +1 or favorite. So that's the relationship building. So if you do those 3 things every time, it'll get easier and quicker every time you log on. And again, Hootsuite makes it so that you put things in columns. The people who have retweeted you are here, the people who have mentioned you are here, and certain keywords and certain people, like I want journalists to notice me, so I'm going to put a bunch of journalists in a list, and they're in a column. So I monitor their tweets, and I share their information when it's good, when it's related to my brand, and I tell them I like this article they wrote. They start noticing me. I want to monitor a certain keyword, I put that in a column, and I want to share that information, and then people who use that keyword will start noticing me. This is how you build relationships, and it's how you do it in a not an overwhelming way. You really can do this in 5 to 10 minutes a day. We do this for our clients, and each of the account managers spends max 20 minutes a day on each account. And that has to do with writing tweets and posting. So the engagement part is 10 minutes. 10 minutes a day is all you need to do this. The first day or two, you'll take a little longer because you'll get used to it. But really, the consistency of 10 minutes a day is really great for engagement, relationship building, and community building. So more people will want to follow you. Good? Any questions on that? Engagement. Yes? It only matters if that matters to you, and if that's part of your branding. There are people who need to have this celebrity brand. There are people who have come to us who say, people who are celebrities, and they don't say it because they are, and they have many, many, many thousands of followers, and they're following 50. They are a celebrity, and people know it. Then I have some clients who say, I want to look like a celebrity, and some of them should, because they need to, and some of them just want to, but it doesn't make sense, and people think it looks fake. So it depends. There are people who will go buy followers to look like a celebrity, and everyone knows they bought followers, because there's no way on Twitter to have 60,000 followers if you're following 7 if nobody really knows who you are. So to get more followers, you follow more people and you engage with them. And what's wrong with that? It actually shows you off as a giver and a sharer, and that's what you want. Right? I mean, I think, unless that's not your branding. And I did have this one client who I kept talking about this, and he's like, no, that's not who I want to be. I want to be standoffish and aloof. That was his branding. Great. So we did not share and follow, and so that was his branding, and it works for him. Messaging. Okay, so the other thing is consistency across all the platforms. So if you are on several platforms, you want people who, when they're looking, people Google you, or if they're looking up your company, they see all the places that you are. Or they're looking you up on LinkedIn, and I'm not sure if that's you. That's not the picture I recognized when I chatted with you on Twitter, so I'm not sure. I'm confused. Make sure your photo is the same and your bio is the same or similar, depending on how many characters you're allowed. The messaging has to be the same. Your branding, your colors, everything should be consistent. And sometimes, again, this is where when we're just starting, we have fun and we practice and we play and we experiment. But that does confuse people, and of course it will then take longer for people to become aware and trust who you are. So simple action step is just to make sure when you go on tonight, go on all your platforms and make the photo of yourself the same on every one. Pick your favorite photo. Even if it's not the best, people will recognize you every time now. Oh yeah, that's her. One thing. Oh, so speaking of being on all different platforms, which platform should you be on? Which platforms should you not waste your time on? I wish I had one answer, like LinkedIn is where you should be and ignore Facebook. But there is no that. It, again, has to do with your audience. So where is your audience? And number one, where's your audience? And does the culture of that platform, so if your audience is on Facebook, that's where they hang out. But the culture of chatting back and forth, the way Facebook allows you to chat back and forth, doesn't really work for you, then you're not going to get into it. So you want both. and you don't want to spread too thin, because that's what comes up too. Well, but I should be on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Instagram and Google Plus and Tumblr. No, you don't have to be. You're actually better off not being on some of them if you're going to put a bio up and then not be active, because you can't. You cannot be active on 7 platforms unless you hire a company like Ghost Tweeting to do it for you. We have some clients who want to be. The time and the budget is not the biggest object to them. So yes, building them big on 7 platforms. It's not really feasible, and it's silly for most companies and most people. So I heard someone say recently, intensity beats extensity. I'm pretty sure I heard them wrong because I don't know what extensity is, but what they meant was you want to spend your energy and put intensity into one thing rather than spreading your energy. So if you have 10 minutes a day, spend it on Twitter or Google Plus rather than 5 minutes on 2 different platforms. You will get faster results by spending all your energy in one area. So does anyone have questions about, I mean, you think about each of the platforms, and it changes a lot, but each of the platforms puts out, you can research who are the main people who are on those platforms. So then you can decide where your audience is. But yes.
I have a question about your point of having kind of empty outlets that have your name. So we have everything for our company. For example, I don't use our Google Plus at all. But the reason I have that is more IP, intellectual property, so somebody else can't get it. So
that's a great
what
question.
would a solution be there? Because it has our logo, it has the website, but it's basically a holding space so nobody else takes it. And you
Yeah.
don't come looking for us, find something else, and or confused, I guess. So is that another form of consistency?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I never really thought about that, so I need to think some more about that. But I think you're right. It's a good idea to take the name rather than someone else taking it. One thing is, if you're able to, even in your weekly scheduling, do 1 post a week, so it doesn't look empty and sad. And you could even post in your bio. You know, we do our activity on Twitter. Here we post weekly photos or something. So then you are consistent with what you say you're going to do. But a completely empty one, people will find it. And it's so weird that there are these big companies out there, and we know they're doing good business, but if you looked them up on Facebook, you saw they posted once 3 years ago, you think it's weird. Like, how could a big company do that? And if it's a small company that I hardly heard of, oh, maybe they're not even in business anymore. You don't want that to happen.
I like that.
Yes?
What are your thoughts on, you have like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you now post on, you post on Instagram, you can also post on like the same picture on Twitter and Facebook. Like, do you feel like that's redundant, or like you all three, like the same?
Yeah, it depends. I don't think it's redundant to post on one and have it go on 1 or 2 others if it's appropriate. What I don't like is, for example, people say, well, I'll just post on Twitter and I don't have to worry about Facebook because all my tweets will show up on Facebook. That doesn't work because, number one, you're posting on Twitter more often, and Facebook culture is not the kind of place where people accept 5 to 10 posts a day. It's on your, people might get annoyed by that, number one. The culture is more 1 to 3 times a day. Twitter, you could do 20 times a day. It's also the language. Twitter language is very different than Facebook language. Hashtags are still kind of weird on Facebook, and people are confused by them. You abbreviate things. The links look different. The pictures will show up different. So it looks bad if you're just not on Facebook but sending your tweets over there. However, an Instagram photo looks wonderful on Facebook. So that's perfect. Why not hit 2 birds with 1 stone? Because it works well. So when you're, you might as well leverage your time. Yes, why do it twice when you could do it once or 3 times? But only if it fits. So think of it's really the kind of the culture and what people expect. Because people are turned off by, and LinkedIn especially. I think there was someone who once said, well, I'll just have all my Twitter go on LinkedIn. And then people were complaining. Why, LinkedIn, this was the time where LinkedIn status updates showed up more in people's feeds. And people were like, what is this? Like, it looked like foreign language on LinkedIn. And they were being bothered all day long by this person's tweets. So make sure it works. I happen to love Instagram going on Facebook. It looks great, and people love, speaking of that, visual on Twitter also. Now, Instagram photos don't show up as pictures on Twitter, they show up as a link, and that's fine. But you're better off putting a picture on Twitter because they show up beautifully. And we've been studying this, and the difference between engagement with pictures on Twitter is sometimes 5 to 10 times the amount of engagement from a regular post, and a regular post with just a picture put in. Doesn't even have to do it. I mean, you want it to relate, but it could be you post about I don't know. It's a glorious day for, I don't know. Give me something inspirational to say. Yeah.
For a 5K run?
A glorious day for a 5K run, or glorious day for a 5K run and a picture of a mountain. The picture of the mountain will get more like, hey, I'll join you, or oh, I love it, or shares because it's such a pretty picture. And so yeah, so visual is getting even bigger, and the platforms that weren't visual are now adding visual. Yes.
Some companies I follow who run it and they tweet constantly throughout the day. Do you feel there's ever too much said on Twitter, even if it's consistently done?
The studies show that you really can't tweet too much. Like there's no downside for a few reasons. Number one, it's not, and a lot of people who have always said to me, I don't want to bother people by tweeting too much. I think what they think in their head is that every time they tweet, their followers get a text buzz, like, oh, I can't believe she's tweeting again. None of their followers know they tweeted unless they're logged onto Twitter at that moment. So because of that, and this is how I describe it, Twitter is a moving stream of water. Is the stream a moving body of water? I'm not good with my bodies of water. So if I log on to Twitter, I'm stepping up to the stream and I'm seeing what's going by. All the tweets are in there, blah, 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 and I throw in a tweet. I tweet something, so I'm putting it in the water, and there it goes down the stream. So if you log on to Twitter, a minute later, you step up to the stream, my tweet's all the way down there. You don't even see it anymore. So if I want you to see a tweet, I have to tweet again. So the only time people see your tweets are if they're logged on to Twitter at the time you're tweeting, or within usually a few seconds, maybe a minute, depending on how many people they're following. But generally, they need to be looking at their Twitter feed when you tweet. And because most of if you have 1,000 followers, I would say 998 of them at least are not on as you tweet. So in order to catch them, you tweet again, half hour later, an hour later, and you could tweet the same thing. Again, not in a row, but tweet the same thing tomorrow at a different time to catch more people. Tweet that same thing a week later. And I always say this, that I have a tweet that's in my rotation, my automated rotation, that is a question that every time it goes out, every 2 weeks or so, I'll get 5 to 10 responses from people as if they've never heard that question before, and it's gone out about 50 times. And the reason is, it's because they've never heard that question before, after 50 times of me tweeting it. They've never seen it before. I'm like, I've been posting that for a year. You need to tweet often. You need to. And it doesn't bother people. People don't see, unless they're only following a few people, and then that's really their issue. They should follow more people. What? Oh, it's something like, what's your favorite room in the house to work if you work at home? And there's some great answers. And every time I post it, people are like, oh, I love sitting on the couch in my living room. I love being on my patio, and it's fun to watch. Anyway.
Boston, do you guys have a question?
Yeah, we do have a question.
Great.
So the Boston interns here are working with teenage girls to mount a social media campaign, and they're a group of 3 to 4 girls, depending upon the group, and we have a short time to get as much results as possible, and they're on social issues like employment discrimination and dress code for women. So do you have any tips for what's the best way to go about this? Because we only have around 3 to 4 weeks to launch a successful campaign and sort of get the fastest results.
Okay, so what are the results that you want when you say results?
So we're really trying to teach these teenage girls how to launch a campaign and what are sort of the what are sort of the strategies you should follow when launching it. So it's more of a teaching thing than actually launching a successful campaign, like getting a lot of likes or follows. But one thing that we are focusing on is, focusing on 3 to 4 different platforms. And I know that you mentioned that intensity is better than intensity. So, what are some of the tips that you would give us on how we should focus our attention on these different platforms and how we should, be consistent across these platforms?
Okay. First thing I want to say, because I think it's important, is unfortunately, I get a question all the time, like we have this event or this launch and it's in 3 to 4 weeks, so how do we get results in 3 to 4 weeks? And my first thing that I want to say is don't, and it's too late, but don't dig your well when you're thirsty. Do it when you're not thirsty and you'll get results. So if you have something coming out in December, start now, and in November when you launch it, people will be excited about it. If you wait till November to start it, you won't have time to build up the relationships and the give and take relationships that you want, where people want to hear what you have to say. But let's say you have three to 4 weeks. I think Twitter is a great place to spend some of your intensity, because you can, if you know the branding and the message that you want to get out, write a whole bunch of posts and schedule them to go out 10 to 20 times a day, every half hour, let's say, from early in the morning till late at night. And so that's the broadcasting part. You also want to log on every day and make sure you make a list of the people who you want to notice you. So are these employers? Are there other people in nonprofits? And who are the people you want to notice you? Make a list of that type of person, the specific people. Put them in a list on Twitter, make a column for them, and monitor those tweets. And engage with those people every day, and they will start noticing you and want to follow you and want to share your message. You can do that on other platforms as well, but Twitter is just such an easy place to do that, because you can, there's no limits, there's no, you don't have to spend, like with Facebook, you need to spend in order to get your post in front of more people. On Twitter, you just tag people as much as you want. So the people you want to notice you, engage with them. Look for keywords that are, again, the people you want to notice. What keywords are they using? What hashtags are they using? Monitor those tweets and engage with those people on a daily basis. So it's broadcasting and engagement that will help you on Twitter and all the other platforms. So what platforms are you using?
We have 3 different teams, and we're all using different platforms, but Facebook and Twitter are probably the most popular, maybe Tumblr too.
Okay. So with Tumblr too, you want to follow a lot of people who will then notice you. But putting out good content is good, and then engaging the people who you want to notice you, and consistently. But you have a short period of time, so you definitely want to do it intensively. So post a lot. Now Facebook, you don't post as much, and I don't know if you have a budget, but doing a promoted post a few times a week will get you a lot more attention. Good?
What about YouTube?
YouTube I don't work with, but YouTube is really good for SEO, and you can connect YouTube with your Google Plus account. So, and I think that's a good idea, to start a Google Plus account, attach it to your YouTube, and every time you put out a video, you could show up on your Google Plus, and every time you do a Hangout on Google Plus, it becomes a YouTube video. But yeah, I think it's a good idea. I just don't have expertise in it.
Thanks a lot.
Sure, thank you.
UK, do you guys have any questions too? I don't wanna.
Yes, we have a question. This is Alex from the UK office.
Hello.
Thank you for your talk, by the way. I wanted to readdress the issue of the separate accounts on social media. I can kind of understand in terms of maybe LinkedIn and Facebook, but in terms of Twitter, don't you think it could be productive to have 2 accounts, say across the US and the UK? Because then when you're on the UK account, you can do something that's relevant to what you're doing at the time. Maybe something a bit more about recruitment and thinking about the candidates you might be wanting to talk to. And also maybe even talk between accounts and see that relationship developing that way as well.
Yeah, so if different things are going on and your objectives are different, then certainly two accounts work well. The reason I like one account is because again, you can be intense on one rather than spreading your energies. Um, but like I said, if you have different objectives, it may confuse the issue if you do it on one account. So then, yes, you're right. It might work to do a separate UK account. One idea, we have one client who has separate locations and we do different hashtags. So you might want to flirt with that idea and see if using different hashtags and you tell the employees in the UK, follow this hashtag. It might be NextJumpUK, hashtag NextJumpUK. And when posts about your office go out, it uses that hashtag every time. So then you could kind of have that, it's not a separate account, it's a separate column to monitor those tweets. So that's just another idea.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that idea.
Good. Great. Thank you. I see we're running over. I had a whole bunch of questions, but I don't know if we're running over, but if everyone, we have questions. Good.
If you have, I don't know if you have time. I want to be aware
totally
of your
fine.
time as well.
And sneak out if you need to, but I won't cry too much. Yes.
Hi, we're a small company on the Planet Sports, and we're looking for a social media person, but we also like someone that can answer publications, maybe bloggers, influencers, people like that. How sort of the industry is it? That be expected from one person? Is that realistic?
To hire a person, you're saying, for your company?
People that be on social media and stuff.
Doing what on social media? Reaching
Like,
out?
doing all the social media stuff and doing reaching out to different publications. It's kind of like a collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're very related. The thing that always, and many companies do it, is they have someone who has really a different job in the company also handle social media. And many companies need to do that because of budget. But that's where it might be confusing. They're not an expert. But with PR, with outreach to bloggers, that really is related to inbound social media marketing. And I think that is perfectly legitimate to find someone who can do all of that for you. Yes. To outreach, I mean, social campaigns often include outreach to bloggers and getting PR attention. Yes. So that's definitely feasible and doable.
Can I add one note? You might want to call something like community manager as opposed to social media person until you go with a broader title.
Cool. Yeah. And it's probably other titles too that would be exciting to people, but that job description, yes, go for it.
When vetting these people, is there any specific metrics that are put to judge their abilities? Because it's such a wide field, it's hard to other occupations.
Yeah, and it's fairly new field, even though it's not totally new. It's still new. I think that part of a challenge that people have is they see people who are young and great. They know social media, but you want someone who knows social media for business, which really is very different than just knowing social media. So if someone has expertise, and I'll tell you from experience, we hired someone her background is in PR. She had no social media experience. So we trained her on really the tasks. She understands how to get attention for businesses, and all we had to do was teach her how to use Twitter. I think it's easier to teach that task than to teach someone to have the mindset of going out and getting attention for you. So that might be a better place to look. PR experts and people who have experience enrolling people, rather than someone who's just good at Twitter or Facebook or Google+, because they know how to post and how to connect with people, but randomly. And I think you want someone who has the that experience of getting you press and attention. The tasks are the easy part to teach people.
So maybe we'll just go around and get one more question from each office before we wrap up. So we'll start with you guys in the UK if you have one, and then we'll go back to Boston really quickly and end in New York. So Alex, do you guys have another question?
It might be too long of a question, but in terms of, so the UK office are going to an exhibition at the end of September, and I'm all for
for kind of using social media to try and attract attention on the run up to the event, and I'm definitely going to try and do something on that. But I'm more interested in how you would personally go about keeping that buzz, that hype that you've created from the event, and continue to use it afterwards.
Yeah, and so good. I'm glad I took notes on this because I got a question like that ahead of time. So after the event, some ways to keep up momentum is to have, well, first of all, leading up to the event, make sure you have a hashtag that's unique to the event, which people can use at the event for posting, live tweeting and live blogging using the hashtag. After the event, continue to use that hashtag and ask questions and make updates. So, updates like this is what happened, use the hashtag. And tell people at the event to follow the hashtag afterwards. We're going to keep in touch. You can connect with each other. If you use the hashtag, you'll be able to follow each other on social media, the attendees. Photos. Post photos of the event. Blog about the event. Post surveys on social media about the event to get engagement. Like, what did you think of this part of the event? Do you have suggestions for content for the next event? But keep people involved with lots of questions and surveys and summaries and pictures. People love after the event to check in. Tell people at the event, on this date we're going to post a photo album, and then when that's posted, say, don't forget to check in tomorrow because we're going to post a survey and all of this stuff. But keep it going for a few weeks afterwards. And I think photos are probably one of the best things. People love to check them and see if they find themselves in the photos.
Great. Last one, do you guys have another question?
Yeah, I have another quick question. What is your suggestion on like the length of the messages that you post, or maybe photos versus videos? How long can people stay engaged for a single post that you make? And how would you suggest improving that experience for other users?
Okay, so the studies show that the shorter the better in general, even on Facebook where you can post pretty much as long as you want. The most recent study I read was 80 characters, which is really short. 80 characters will get you a lot more engagement. Ever since Twitter came out, we all now live in a Twitter universe where if it's long, we don't have time. We'll get back to it, but we don't get back to it. Short is always better. Videos, they used to say a minute, now it's like 30 seconds max. That's all we have time for. So photos are great. Videos people love, but let them see how long it is. So don't I think we even talked about that here. Don't post a video without allowing people to see how long it is, and make sure they could see it's 30 seconds or less, and then they'll sit and watch it. So make everything short, shorter the better. It's weird that on Facebook they said people respond more to the very, very, very short posts or the really, 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 really long ones. You still get more engagement on the short ones, but people tend to, if they want to waste time, they'll sit and they'll read a really long one. But anything in between doesn't get much engagement. So I would suggest going really short if possible.
Great. So last question from New York. Is there an expected ratio between the amount of followers on Facebook with the amount of likes you should receive on a post, or a way that you can gauge that?
It's changed over the last few months, even it's going down. And we're talking about a Facebook page?
Yeah, so the amount of followers on a page, the likes on a Facebook page per post that you're putting forth.
So they're saying now that it's anywhere between 1% and 6% of the amount of likes on your page even see your post. So if you have 1,000 likes, round numbers, so 100 to 160, no, 100 to, is that right? Wait, 1% is
10 to 60.
10 to 60 people are even seeing the post. So your percentage is not related to the 1,000, it's related to let's say 30, 40, 50 people see it. There's no actual number there, but what you want to do is look at posts, and you can see how many people see the post. So if you say this reached 48 people and you got 6 likes, next post tweak it a little and see if you can get that ratio up. And you'll start to notice, oh, when I ask this kind of question, I get more response. Oh, when I post a picture with it, I get a lot more likes and response. So you'll see. So in general, short questions that require one-word answers will get more engagement and photos. So the questions are like what, when, where, and who, but not why or how. because that requires too much thought. And the funny thing is, if you say, when are you going to the movies tonight, as a question, they only have to write 8 o'clock. But because they only have to write 8 o'clock, now that they started writing, they might write a lot more. So if you require a very, very quick answer, you'll get a longer answer. So quick questions and photos will get more response.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.